Rick Santorum went on the Fox Business Network to talk to The Independents. It's a show that's mostly libertarian, and they took him to school in a pleasantly awkward interview.
Now, Rick, you've been very hostile toward philosophical libertarians. You've made no bones about that, and you've come on a show hosted by libertarians. Would you care to clarify your position?
Look, I think there's a lot of common ground between libertarians and conservatives, but frankly, there's a lot of common ground between libertarians and liberals. And I think the problem that libertarians, the basic principles of libertarianism are the same problems as the basic principles of liberalism. They don't work in practice. They work in theory, not in practice. And one of the things about conservatism, the reason I am a conservative, is because conservatism isn't an ideology. It's looking at what has the values and principles that have worked and succeeded in building the greatest country in the history of the world, and we try to take those principles and play them forward into solving the problems that there are today.
I've also seen you criticize the notion of the pursuit of happiness, which is a pretty foundational phrase in the Declaration of Independence. What do you mean by that? Why should we be at all afeared of the pursuit of happiness?
Well, I don't know where you're reading. I'll refer you to another book I wrote, and I explain my view of the pursuit of happiness in great detail. The pursuit of happiness is one that I didn't quite understand when I read Life, Liberty, and Pursuit of Happiness, thinking life and liberty are great, profound, fundamental rights. But if you look at it as happiness, I mean, what the right to happiness? I don't know if you want on your gravestone, there lies Kennedy, she was happy. That's not something that I think most people would say is a great lifelong accomplishment.
Oh, you know what? That actually depends. No, it depends on your definition of happiness. And if you go with the Greek definition, which is a full life filled with self-education and purpose, I think that's what most libertarians are talking about.
Yeah,
they're not talking about going to Disneyland.
Yeah, I would argue that that's not what our founders were talking about. But the more I looked at
you mean the ones who
definition,
were influenced by neoclassical thought that has its roots in Greek philosophy?
The more I looked at what our founders were talking about and looking at dictionary definitions at the time and looking at writings at the time, they understood happiness to mean true happiness, not pleasure and enjoyment as we sort of see happiness today, but doing what you ought to do, doing what you're oriented and to use the writing at the time, what God had oriented you to do. In other words, doing the right thing, not doing whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, leave it to Rick Santorum to define something as its opposite. Freedom? What do I mean by freedom? I mean, you're not allowed to gay marry, you're not allowed to take substances that you want to take even though you're not hurting anybody else. I mean, you name it. This guy, he's known for that now. Like, oh, the founders, when they said happiness, they meant true happiness. Okay, what do we all live in your head? We know what you're saying when you say that. And then he had to divert to it because he always does. By that I mean God. I mean, happiness is doing your responsibilities and obeying God. No, it's not. Certainly not for me. Certainly not for the people I know. See, here's a guy, and this is where libertarians are 100% correct, and he's 100% wrong, and they run circles around him intellectually. Here's a guy who tries to take a concept and define it as its opposite, or he tries to take what his opinion is on a certain topic and pretend like it's fact. Like, no, my definition of happiness is not happiness. It's not pleasure, it's not joy, it's not how you define it. My idea of happiness for you is what I think is happiness. So doing your responsibilities and obeying God. Right, I know a lot of people in Iran who agree with you, Rick. I know a lot of people in Saudi Arabia. You know, he goes after Sharia law a lot, but that seems to be right in line with Sharia, the idea that happiness is God and that's the end of the conversation. And I like how he admits early on, too, when they're like, you know, we have this quote here where you say you're not too hot on happiness. He's like, right. Like, what is that, man? He's like, happiness? Yuck, I don't want happiness. I hate that. Well, we could kind of see that you're not all that happy a guy. And then at the beginning, he's like, oh, the problems with libertarianism, there's so many of them. See, the thing about conservatism is that it's not an ideology. It just works. Look, libertarians, I have a love-hate thing going on with them. I think we agree on about 40% of things, maybe as high as 50% of things. And I think they're dead wrong on the other half of things. But here's the thing. There's no competition between the intellect of a libertarian and the intellect of Rick Santorum. Libertarians are just, eons above and beyond a guy like Rick Santorum, because Rick Santorum, all he is a theocrat. Like, there's no deep thinking that goes into his belief system. All it is, what does the Bible say? What does Jesus say? What does my culture say? What do the bigots say? What does Rush Limbaugh say? Mesh all that together, and then something gets shitted out the other end there, and he pretends like, oh, it's not an ideology. It just works. Right, like the last time we implemented conservatism on a wide scale, the Bush administration, everything went perfect, right? Oh, that's right. When he left office, we were losing 700,000 jobs a month. We had the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. All he did was deregulate and cut taxes for the rich. Income inequality shot through the roof. Poverty shot through the roof. The war on the middle class continued. We started 2 wars that now are incredibly unpopular. I mean, war in Afghanistan, only 17% of the American people still want to be there. That's less than Vietnam at its most unpopular point. Okay, I can go on and on. You want me to keep naming the failures? I can. But but conservatism is not an ideology. It just works. Right. George W. Bush proved the exact opposite, but right, Rick.